Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word. Today's question I have for you is, what is the Church of Jesus built upon? Okay, let me re-ask that. That's a funny way of saying it, but what is the Church of Jesus based on or built upon? Okay, we're going to be reading today from Mark 16 verses 17 through 20. Okay, we're picking it right up where, well, of course we pick it up every day where we left off yesterday, but today it overlaps just a bit. And you remember in yesterday's episode, Jesus asks the disciples who people say that he is, and then he asks the disciples, who do you say that I am? And Peter got it right. He says, you are the Messiah and you are the Son of God. Okay, so then we're going to keep on reading here. Verse 17, it says this: Jesus replied, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by the Spirit of heaven." Okay, but by the Father in heaven. Verse 18, "And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. Okay. He didn't want them telling yet, because he didn't want the crowds around him at that time. Remember, they're in Caesarea Philippi, kind of a Gentile area, so he was away from the Jewish people at this time. But he wasn't ready for that to be revealed all out to the public quite yet. Okay, so going back here to verse 18, he says, "And I tell you, you are Peter." And Peter, that means rock. Okay, so he says, "And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." Now, there's been a lot of confusion about this. When you read through it, you assume, and the Catholic Church has done this, they see that and they go, they think it says, "You're Peter, and upon you I'm going to build my church." Okay, so just like if it'd be Todd, it'd say, "You're Todd, and upon Todd I'm going to build my church." That's not what Jesus was saying. Okay, so you have to look at it as into the whole context of what he's saying here, and what Peter writes later in 1 Peter. Okay, so you remember Peter had given the testimony saying, "You are the Messiah, you are the Son of God." Okay, and Jesus is saying, upon that testimony that you just gave, that's what I'm building my church upon. Okay, that's what the whole basis of the church is. That what your testimony that Jesus is the Messiah and the Son of God. That's what the church is built upon. Okay, so hopefully that you can see that. All right, and it continues on, and it says, "And on this rock," the rock is that testimony. Okay, not the rock of Peter. "And on that rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it." The gates of Hades was death. Okay, so death can't overcome it because Jesus died. He overcame death. He was the only one that overcame death. And we know that, with the crucifixion where he died, and then he resurrected in 3 days. Nobody else is resurrected and stayed alive. All right, so he defeated death, and he says, "And the gates of Hades will not overcome it." Death isn't going to overcome it. I defeated that, he says. Okay, so you get this more fully, I think you might say, is I want to turn over to 1 Peter. 1 Peter was written by Peter, whom Jesus was speaking to here. 1 Peter 2, verses 4 through 10. Okay, and this is Peter's own words, years later here. And he doesn't, you won't see him ever say, "Upon myself I'm building the church," that God has built the church upon myself. Okay, you're not seeing that here in 1 Peter. He is talking about the church is built upon the rock of Jesus. Okay, and then we are stones also. We're living stones in the building of that church. Okay, so verse 4 of 1 Peter 2. It says this, as you come to him, the living stone rejected by humans, but chosen by God, and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into the spiritual house to be holy, a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. For the scripture says, see, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen and precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame. He's talking about Jesus right there. Okay, he's not talking about Peter. He's not saying upon the stone of myself I'm building it. No, he's talking about Jesus. All right, the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame. Okay. Verse 7. Now to you who believe, this stone is precious, but to those who do not believe, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Jesus was rejected, but he has become the cornerstone. All right. And a stone that causes people to stumble, and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message, which is also what they were destined for. Verse 9, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into this wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Okay? So, that's the testimony there. And when I go back to what we started off with is, what is the Church of Jesus built on? It's built on the testimony of Jesus as being the Messiah and God. Okay? That's what the church is built on, and ultimately is built upon Jesus. Okay? If you don't have Jesus, you don't have a church. Okay? It's kind of funny. There's people today that say, oh, I have a church, and they don't really believe in Jesus. What kind of church is that? It's kind of a social get-together place. It's not a church. Okay. So, I'm done for my rant today on that. Thank you for watching. We're going to continue on through the book of Matthew tomorrow. Lord's blessing to you, and I will see you tomorrow.